Good evening, everybody. We'll call to order this meeting of the North Middlesex Regional School District School Committee for Monday, October 7th. Present, we have Ms. Robbins, Mr. Tom, Ms. Randy, Mr. Michael, Ms. June, and myself in attendance. Chairperson hereby informs the committee and audience members of the recording of this meeting. And if you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next scheduled meeting of the North Middlesex Regional School Committee will be held at 7 p.m. on Monday, October 28th. So we've moved our next meeting to the 28th due to conflict with a special town meeting in Pepperell that evening. So if you live in Pepperell, you should attend that meeting. For the consent agenda, is there anything, anybody has comments, questions, or would like to pull from the consent agenda? It is fairly extensive. There's minutes, out-of-state field trip, acceptance of donations, and disposal of some old books.
I have no questions on the consent agenda.
Awesome.
But I would like it read.
If no one has questions. All right. So we have approval of minutes for August 20th, 2019 and September 9th, 2019. Approval of out-of-state and overnight field trips. There are 4 of them. Hawthorne Brook 8th grade students visit major landmarks in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. The NMS Chorus students to attend Manchester Fisher Cats game to perform the national anthem. NMS Chorus students to visit Canopy Lake Park in Salem, New Hampshire. And the MASC Leadership Conference. Number 3, acceptance of donations. There's a donation of 26 hardcover books. The Kissing Frog by Audrey Penn, donated to AES first grade students by the Ashby Alumni Association. Donation of $250 gift card and 100 books of various science topics to Hawthorne Brook Middle School from 2019 Subaru Loves Learning Initiative. Donation of a drum zone set and a metallic bell set from Mr. Bill Bramlett to the NMS band program, and a donation of $2,000 to the NMRSD Athletics from Game Day Media Incorporated. Media Incorporated solicited ads revenues and charged those organizations a fee, and then they gave NM a payment donation for a portion of the revenue collected. And last, disposal of surplus property. There's antiquated library books that will be given to students, 140, and there's antiquated music room materials, quantity of 389.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. I do not have a chairperson's report, so student representative report. Welcome.
Hi everyone. For those of you that don't already know me, I'm Kelsey O'Keefe from the junior class.
I'm Emma Benson. I'm also a junior.
I'm Abigail Kate. I'm a senior.
And so we're just going to touch on some of the recent events in the high school. So on the 26th of September, our class, junior class, ran a dodgeball tournament as a fundraiser. And so there were 4 teams competing, and Team Business took the win. And in the informational packet, there's some pictures from it.
And on October 3rd, Student Council had its 3rd annual installation of Officers Potluck, where 19 new members were gladly initiated into our council.
And not last Friday, but the Friday before, we played Groton Dunstable. We unfortunately didn't win for the varsity football team, but it was a really close game that night.
Yeah, I know a big thing that we're working on this year is school spirit, and I think it's really improving this year with the trench themes and everything. This past game was neon, and I saw like tons of people wearing the neon.
It's crazy.
And then with the pep band playing, it's just really working out well this year. So,
Yep. And then, so for upcoming events, tomorrow night we do have the National Honor Society induction from 6 to 8 p.m. here in the Performing Arts Center.
Yep. And then the Best Buddies Friendship Walk, again, is on the 19th, and it's at 10 a.m. at the Bolton Fairgrounds in Lancaster, and that's open to the public. And then the link to sign up is right there in the description.
And our Homecoming Spirit Week is October 21st through October 25th, and then on October 25th will be all the homecoming events. Like we have a pep rally, there's tailgating before, and then the game, and then the dance after.
And then both of our service learning groups are hosting events super soon. So NOLA has a spaghetti supper. It's all you can eat spaghetti for $5 a ticket. In advance, it's $7 at the door. And that is on the 23rd from 5 to 7:30 in the Commons. And then New York Service Learning is hosting Spookapalooza on the 29th from 5 to 8, also in the Commons. And it's like more directed to younger kids.
Yeah. And so following the spaghetti supper that Nola's hosting is the Wind Symphony concert, and that's also the 23rd at 7 p.m. in the Performing Arts Center. And then another Honor Society induction ceremony is Tri-Am, and that will be on the 22nd from 7 to 8 p.m. So,
Yep, that's all we have.
Excellent.
Thank you.
then there's some
Thank you very much.
pictures.
I love the layout.
Excellent. Moving along to the superintendent's report.
Excellent, thank you. So first up, we have Ms. Cromwell Gap. She is going to be here to answer any questions that you may have about the Squannacook Early Childhood Center Student Handbook that we have up for approval tonight. So, Ms. Cromwell Gap.
Good evening. So all I did this summer was in alignment with the elementary handbooks. I tried to take the Squannacook handbook and just do a quick alignment. So none of the content changed from the previous handbook. We just made it more aligned to the formatting that we used for the elementary schools.
And this is something that has to be voted on and accepted, just like the elementary, middle, and high school handbooks. I know that there were a couple of issues that I took care of today. There were just a couple of formatting issues that I took care of this morning, so we should be good to go on that. Any questions on the handbook?
All right. We'll entertain a motion to approve the Squannacook Early Childhood Center 2019-2020 Student Handbook. So moved. All right, any other comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Thanks,
you.
Ms. Cromwell Gap. Appreciate it. And next up, we have Varnabrook Elementary School. So at each meeting this year, we're going to look to have principals come up and briefly share with the committee something that's good happening, something that's happening that's positive in their respective schools, so that we can keep both the community and the school committee informed. And tonight, we have Dr. Hanley, the principal, and Ms. Jill Jarvis, the assistant principal, here to share some news with regard to what's going on at Varnabrook Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Good.
I'm Tara Hanley. I'm the principal at Ryan and Brook. We did a little presentation, and I think you have it in your packet, too. So we'll just go through how the year started, I guess. Thanks, Robin.
It's at the very end of your packet.
Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. We started the year on our opening day with a team building challenge, which, as teachers know, they sometimes dread these kinds of activities. Sometimes they do them in business, and people dread them also. But the feedback on this one was actually very, very positive. I think that all the staff enjoyed it. They were running all around the school. They had to escape the school, and then they had to take a selfie of their team and send it to us. And of course, there were prizes. And you really do see the competitive spirit of some people as they are taking off their shoes and running through the hallways. It was actually a really great way to start the year. And since we're all working on school culture, I think that the feedback from that was very, very positive.
It was fun.
It was very fun. Thanks, Robin. We just wanted to talk about some of the things that are going on in our school We do have some students from the high school that are doing externships in our school. Riley is doing one in Mrs. Chappell's third grade classroom. She was there today, and she was there for an extended period today. I think she had gone to the dentist, and she wanted to spend some extra time with the kids, and so she went and had lunch and recess with them in addition to working in the classroom. We love having the kids from the high school come down. The younger kids really like having them there, so we're going to expand those opportunities. And certainly Riley, this is something that she has said now is really solidifying her desire to become a teacher. So that's great. We have every other month, we have Sir William Pepperell Reading Day. The seniors from Pepperell Senior Center come. We have a breakfast for them first. They get their books ahead of time. Then students come down and they get their reader. They bring them back up to the classroom. This happens to be Colby Jarvis, Jill's son, and Jocelyn Sanasuaso, who is Mrs. Sanasuaso's daughter, who came to get their readers. Afterwards, the seniors come down back to the cafeteria and they all have coffee and talk. They would like us to have this every month as opposed to every other month, so we are going to try to increase that. We have before and after school care still provided by Kidsborough. Starts at 7 a.m. and it goes till 6 o'clock, so right before and after school. And we have our class program, which will be starting in the next couple of weeks with different offerings. We haven't gotten the schedule yet for that. We will be looking for other people to do some offerings too. We would like some other people to come in and we have some students who are very interested in science, some students who are interested in cooking, so there will be a variety of things, hopefully. So,
just being a Townsend parent, I'm not familiar with class, or I've forgotten when you've presented in the past.
it's a 6-week program that runs 2 or 3 days a week, and the students come, they stay until about 4:30. Parents come and pick them up, and we offer different kinds of things for students.
Okay, like enrichment?
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
Opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, the very popular ones are always gym games and those kinds of activities. When Mr. Mader was there, he always did a cooking class, so maybe he'll come back and do one. That would be great. We also do things, we pair classrooms up in our schools, so we have a buddy classroom with grade 4 and grade 1. They do relationship building activities, readers theater, art projects, partner games. They share their writing with each other. They just had their first meeting, and the buddies did a Venn diagram about themselves to get to know one another. So these are 4th graders with 1st graders, and they get together a couple of times a month during the school day. We have had some different things in our building. If you walk into the lobby, we have a brand new, the American flag that was created by our students. The new logo, which is, we are NM. All of the schools have the similar logos with our school name on them. And if you have not seen our gymnasium yet, you should come and see it. It looks beautiful. We had, as part of the accelerated repair project, we had the painting done. Some of that was because they had worked on the roof and they had to do the ceiling anyway, but they painted all of the ductwork, which is no longer orange. We've slowly been eradicating the orange at Varnum Brook. We're almost there. And the TAP program is coming in. They're going to repaint the floors. It looks great. We have fans, 2 gigantic fans that will cool off the space whenever we have a large crowd. I hope that when Pepperell citizens come and vote, they will all walk in there and go, wow, this place looks amazing. The kids love it. It smells good. It's great. The kids even walked in there and they were like, oh, this is something else. So that was awesome.
Great.
We have also done some upgrades to the exterior of the building. The faded blue is gone. We have all new windows and a new roof and new HVAC. but the blue tile that was out front, which needed some work, it needed a little love, that's right, a little TLC. So that was completed the day before school started, and it looks very, very nice. The next thing we'll be talking about is the front where something might be crumbling, but
Yes, we will.
not tonight, not tonight. Okay. We also have some ongoing things. We have the Scholastic Book Fair that is run by our volunteers. We do that twice a year. Classroom book orders, externships, practicum students from Fitchburg State University, so we have a lot of student teachers in our building. We have the Sidekicks program, which is our program that works with some students with special needs, and we pair them up with a buddy. It's kind of like the younger version of Best Buddies. It's great. We have student council for grade 4. They run a lot of our spirit weeks. Our Title I program is school-wide, and we also have our WIN blocks, which we've talked about before, which is like a response to intervention block. The social emotional learning component of what we're doing, we do use Second Step as a curriculum, and we are using the MARC curriculum now, which you'll be hearing about later in the year. It's the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center. They'll be coming to do some training. We have some of our staff going to get trained. We have teacher leaders in English language arts, mathematics, social studies, and science. They're responsible for bringing curriculum back to our school. We are working on our curriculum map still. They're already in place, but if anything needs to be tweaked, we're working on that. Of course, we teach the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. We had our first Spirit Week on the week of the 23rd of September. I don't know if anybody has heard of the Sandy Hook Promise. So we had partnered with them. We said yes, we will do this also. We want our students to greet one another. We want them to know each other's names, and you start with hello. You wouldn't believe how many kids we had to teach this to. So it was actually a really wonderful day, the first day. So everybody wore a name tag. They all greeted one another. The second day, we did a Choose Kindness Day. We did Free to Be Me, Mix It Up Day, which is at lunchtime, we want you to sit with somebody that you don't normally sit with. And then we had a School Spirit Day on the Friday. We're hoping to do this again next year, and Spalding, I think, is going to do it in a couple of weeks. Last year, we had a parent from Sandy Hook come and talk to our staff before we had our Alice drill. It was very impactful for our staff, just to be ready for, in the case of any kind of an emergency. And one of the things that we learned is our students we have already had our Alice drill, our students do stop. They do listen to the adults that are in charge, and they follow the directions. So, but this is the flip side of that. So you get them before you're in an emergency situation, and you want kids to stop and say, "Hi, I can see that you don't have somebody to play with. Would you like to come and play with us?" It was a great week. We also have a lot of kindness T-shirts. I think they have them at the high school too. I've seen a lot of people wearing these. They say different kindness. In a crazy world where you can be anything, be kind. There's a lot of different variations. We have a Kindness Grows Here board in the cafeteria also. And on the bottom, there are 3 different things that you can click on later. I didn't want to take too much time tonight, but there is one video about our playground. We have $21,835, I think is the exact amount, to spend on our playground. We don't feel that there's enough of response to the whole playground thing to continue fundraising. However, that's enough money to at least buy another piece of equipment and to revamp some things that are out there for our students. The other video is about our artwork, and then there's one about the spaces, the sensory tracks that we put up in the school. Like I did it. The occupational therapists and the physical therapists, along with some of our special education teachers, have put up sensory track spaces. So there are 1, 2, 3, there's at least 4 of them. And so any student in the building can take advantage of it. It's a great way to just get out of whatever funk you're in, maybe, and to reset yourself, and then come back to learning. We all know that sometimes getting up from your desk, going for a little walk, will reset you. We want the kids to do the same thing. So if you ever come to the building, you're more than welcome to come and try one of those. I did it, Jill did it.
Great. The bear crawls, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah, those are tough. So you are all welcome anytime. If you would like to join in with Sir Pepperell Reading Day, we would love to send you an invitation for that. So I will tell all of our coordinators about that. Plus, we have great breakfast. Does anybody have any questions or anything? I guess
Thank you.
I'm the first one to present,
You are,
right?
so
Okay.
thank you both.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. This was very
Thank
good
you.
to get, kind of, to see the impact of some of the boring administrative stuff that we do here, to see how that translates to the kids and in the school, so I appreciate you guys coming out and doing the update.
We appreciate the chance to come out and share all the positives that are
Absolutely,
happening
right.
on a day-to-day basis in our schools, so thank you for that
Very
as
good to
well.
see it. Thank you.
There's a lot going on.
Thanks.
I'd love to hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Our administrative stuff isn't that boring, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just a little.
It's kind of nice to hear about the elementary school, like, just so far removed from that.
Yeah. I've forgotten all those stuff.
So next up is the extended learning program. I know that we've already revisited this, and we voted in to continue with what we did last year. So essentially, I believe it was back in August, we voted to, if we have 5 snow days, to have the 5 snow days to make up the first 5. But anything after that 5, we would utilize the extended learning program on the premise that this would be the last year per the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Well, we had a little curveball thrown at us this year at Spalding, where we had to close school on Monday, September 9th, because the water was off. There was a water main break on the main road, so we did have to close school because you cannot have school in a building that does not have running water. So what I'm asking for, I know that I have permission to utilize days, but this is a little different. I'm asking for permission to utilize an extended learning day for Spalding now, because I did communicate with the Deputy Commissioner, Jeff Wolfson, who said that we do have to make up that day at Spalding. So our options are to use an extended learning program day or to have an additional day of school at Spalding.
With an additional bus.
With an additional bus,
Yeah.
buses.
Yes.
Yes, so I would recommend using an extended learning program day for that, but it could put Spalding at 1 more than any other school. Just making the committee aware of that, but that would be my recommendation, not to make the day up, but to utilize an ELP day. But I would need a committee to vote on that, as far as I understand, because it would be considered somewhat of a calendar change. Indirectly.
Yeah. I mean,
Questions?
no, but you need a motion?
I do have one question.
Sure.
Special ed services that were for that day, how would that work? for that?
If someone needs compensatory services, that's something that we would provide.
Okay.
And we would do that for any ELP day that's used. If the parents request it, it is something that we would provide.
Super.
So,
Did we get a credit for buses that day, or no?
No, because they still ran, and regardless of, they still ran to the middle school and the high school, and we pay for a full day anyway.
we pay per bus, not per tier.
I wish we would get a credit. No, not in this case.
Did you have something to say?
No, I was going to make the motion, but I was going to ask that Mr. Morgan say, yeah, that's good, before it got seconded, that's all. See if I can get this right. So I move that we approve the use of 1 extended learning day for Spalding Memorial School due to the missed day of school on September 9th due to a water main break.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
A second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous, thank you.
Okay, and last up for me would be my goals. And I did miss this on the agenda. This could either be a first reading or a vote, depending upon how the committee feels about it, but the goals do need to be approved by the committee. At some point in time, it does have it listed as a discussion item. Is it okay if I just go through the 4 goals? I won't go through the action steps, but just read the 4 goals to you and explain or answer any questions that you may or may not have.
Are they in the packet anywhere?
They should be in the packet. I can read them for now, if that works.
I don't know if I added them, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We could do a first reading tonight then, and do a vote at the next meeting.
That's the goals for this current school year?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
You want to read them? Summarize them, or?
I can read them. I mean, it will take me, honestly, to read them, it will take me 2 minutes.
Okay.
And I'll read the action steps too that go with them, if that works.
Sure.
And then you can decide how you'd like to handle it. So the first goal is a district improvement goal on school culture to create a variety of opportunities to foster district-wide and cohesive climate, culture, and a sense of community that benefit all stakeholders. That goal is the same goal that comes from our strategic plan. It's the only one that is replicated. For me, the key actions will be to develop a branding and marketing opportunity to promote district pride, develop and expand inter-school opportunities for students and staff of the district to promote a positive district-wide culture, to cultivate ongoing community partnerships with local businesses and organizations, and to provide stakeholders with opportunities to provide feedback and voice concerns. So that's the first goal with 4 action steps. The next goal is also a district improvement goal, which is working with new principals, keep the district moving forward during the year's transition in leadership by working with principals and central office leadership to ensure that meaningful progress is made on critical district and school goals. The key actions are to hire a coach to work with each of the new principals at Spalding and at the high school. Hawthorne Brook does not require a coach because that principal came in with experience, and to maintain open lines of communication with the new principal's coaches. To meet with each principal individually and in person on a regular basis, at least monthly. It's quite honestly happening almost weekly at this point, as well as more frequent and informal phone check-ins. Goal 3 is a professional practice goal, the new superintendent's induction program, which is required for the induction program that I'm in, and that's to develop skills and strategy development, data analysis, and instructional leadership by completing the 2nd year of the NISIP program and earning at least proficient ratings on each major assignment. The key actions are to attend the 6-day-long sessions, complete all assignments, and consult with my assigned coach at least monthly, and that's happening probably 3 to 4 times a month.
So the third goal is completing the 2nd year of the superintendent
Yes.
induction program? Okay, just want to make sure.
And that's a goal that's required of me.
I'll share them with the packet.
Okay.
And the 4th goal is a student learning goal, the school visits and walkthroughs. Visit all schools on a regular basis and participate in classroom walkthroughs, where good instructional practice and student-teacher relationships play a significant role in student achievement. This will provide me with data on what is working well and how we can support classroom teachers and building administrators as we continuously work to improve. The key actions will be to visit each school monthly to conduct classroom walkthroughs with the building administration, and then to debrief with the building administration on observations, discuss best practice, and identify necessary supports. That's it. Yes?
Do we need to select indicators too for this year?
At some point, yes.
Right, okay.
I don't necessarily think it has to be tied in with the goals necessarily.
It just
but
reminded me.
We can
yeah.
do it at a later date.
For anybody that's not understanding is when we do the superintendent evaluation, there's a big rubric that we have from the state with all these different goals and different indices. And so we would have to tie some of those to this, so we're not doing the 42, I think, is what the entire rubric has. We narrow it down for what his goals are.
Right, and what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
I think it's different this year too, and then change it.
Let me look at it again.
I think
Only
it's still big.
if you, I think, elected to, you don't necessarily have to change this year, no.
Oh, you mean which indicators?
No,
The
the
rubric
superintendent's
itself is-
tool has changed.
Yeah.
And some districts have
That's right.
adopted it,
I
other
forgot
districts
about
have not, they're waiting.
We're just starting to get the swing of it.
I know, right? Gonna yank it out from under us. So is everybody comfortable with that as a first reading and approve next time? Or is anybody, yeah, okay, so we'll do that.
Okay,
Anything else?
that's it.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Superintendent. Public communications, 10 minutes will be allotted. Anybody And our vast audience want to get up and say anything? Going once? All right. Subcommittee reports, accelerated repair. We're good? No update from Lisa in the audience, thank you.
Barn Bluff looks great.
And thank you for leading that subcommittee, because the schools do look good. Athletic alternative, Randy?
We have met, I think it's just once since the last school committee meeting, but we did have a meeting, and we're still taking a look at what the needs in the district are for indoor gym space, outdoor gym space, that we don't have storage, especially heated storage for some of the athletic equipment, and also going through on what resources we have for building or adding on or finding things to, I apologize, to accommodate what we need. So it's still just one step at a time, trying to see what we have.
I think we're making good progress.
Yeah,
It's just a big process.
It is a big process. I think we've certainly looked at, we have a need for more indoor space. Right now, we are able to make it work, but ideally, it would be nice to have more indoor space since we lost that extra gym. It really does impact what the school has available for sports and what the community has available. But we are making it do for now. We don't know what the future holds. And we definitely need more heated storage space for a lot of the athletic equipment, especially the pads from the high jump and the pole vault. Those are very expensive padding that they have there, and we really don't have a good place to store it right now. So.
Anything else? All right, thank you. Building committee, I'm going to skip because Rob is not here, and if he shows up and wants to give an update, we'll let him do so. Capital planning,
We haven't met yet.
have not met yet, all right. Finance, you guys just met, right? Is that correct?
Yep, we just had a meeting right before this meeting, just talked about, we'll probably bring at the next meeting a transfer, more for allocating where we put, the buckets have changed just slightly, so we're going to be making a small change for that. We had very, very preliminary talks about the FY21 budget and more process on how we're going forward and when meetings are going to happen, so that's about it.
Excellent.
Negotiation, we haven't met. No need for it right now.
Did that other committee meet related to negotiations? The grid?
On the town meeting? Good, sure. Forget the date, though. A couple weeks ago.
It was like last week.
So it's something that we're doing with regard to finances that we did, myself, Craig, and Nancy, extended an invitation to our 3-member districts to essentially invite their town manager, a member of FinCom, and a member of the Board of Selectmen. So basically teams of 3 to meet with our team of 3, just to talk about the budget for FY21 and how we can work a little bit more collaboratively moving forward. So there are less surprises, more transparency, increased communication, and hopefully understanding with regard to how the regional school district's budget is built and how it's created. We had our first meeting 2 weeks ago. I think it was a very productive meeting, and we're getting ready for a second meeting on November 18th. Again, same situation where we will hopefully be sharing preliminary budgets, but hopefully something that's a little bit more realistic with regard to a final budget. So again, less surprises, more transparency. And the expectation would be is that the school districts are sharing their draft, but the towns are also sharing their draft budgets as well, to see again how can we get to a place that's more collaborative than it was last year.
I think Susan was starting to ask, isn't there a negotiation subcommittee or negotiations going on? I think Will was involved with it. With the
I think
grid.
there was a meeting, but I don't know, I'm not sure when it was. I want to say it was a couple weeks
It
ago.
was a couple weeks ago.
Is
Do
that
you
an
recall
on-
that too? I think it was a couple weeks ago that
It Yeah, I can.
That's like an ongoing thing?
Yes.
Okay. Stay tuned.
Do we not pay our electric bill?
I know areas are losing power.
Okay. Well, then we'll speed along. Policy.
For policy, we have 4 policies up for a second reading. KF, community use of school facilities, KF-R1, community use of school facilities, KF-E1, school facility use, rental, and personnel fee schedule, and JICFB, bullying prevention. I have not received any communications from anybody in the public or from school staff or anybody on these policies that have been up on the website for review.
So these are the same from the first reading?
Yes.
All right, Susan?
And did we want to adopt these one at a time? Is that how we typically adopt? Mm-hmm. So make a motion to adopt KF, community use of school facilities.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Any other detail you want to provide? All right, all those in favor of KF, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Next.
Dave, you want to do the next one?
Sure. I move to adopt resolution KF-R1, community use of school facilities.
Second?
Should you say resolution or policy?
I know what he meant.
Policy. Just testing. Any questions or comments on KF-R1? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's unanimous, thank you. KF-E1?
Randy, it's probably your turn. I'm trying to get all the policy committee members.
I suppose I can. I move that we approve KF-E1 school facility use, rental, and personnel fee schedule for a second reading.
Second?
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous.
And I move to accept policy JICFB, bullying prevention.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those all pass unanimously, thank you. Thank you for your work on this. Anything else for policy?
That's all for policy.
All right, regional agreement.
Regional agreement, we met a couple weeks ago. We had invited the town managers from all 3 towns. Unfortunately, the Pepperell town manager was the only one that was available that evening. I believe the Townsend town manager had ended up ill that day. But we did have a very good meeting, I thought, bringing him up to speed since he's new on what the regional agreement kind of has to say. One of the main things we went over was how we apportion capital expenses. That's one of the main things that we're looking at, possibly revising for more present-day conditions, among some of the other antiquated things that are in the regional agreement that has not been revised since 1972, essentially. In 94 or 91, it was changed for the school committee makeup on representatives from all the towns because we were court ordered to. But other than that, it was 1972, I think, was the last revision. So there's definitely some things that need to be updated, but we had a great conversation. We have a couple of action items to come out of there. Let's take a look at some spreadsheets to take a look at some possibilities on how it would impact the different towns if we changed how we do the capital costs. So we're going to work on getting that together and kind of firming up some of the other smaller changes that we're doing. And we have a meeting, I think it's later this week.
Thursday, yep.
That's all, thank you. School start time, Susan.
Yes. We did have a meeting last week on school start time. It was kind of a restart. This this subcommittee was formed in the fall of 2018. We met several times. Things stalled for a variety of reasons, but we have now started up again. We have 4 new members of the subcommittee. Tim McMahon, the high school principal, Diane Gleason, Miss Dissett Middle School principal, Kristen Pratt, the Spalding Memorial School Assistant Principal, and Dr. Gary Asher. Dr. Asher is a retired family practitioner. He lives in Ashby, but prior to living in Ashby, he lived in Lunenburg, and he was a part of their school start time being pushed a little later at the high school level effort. So he was very eager to hear that this district was going to be looking at that also and wanted to be a part of that. In the meeting, we kind of had an orientation and overview of kind of where we've been, what we've done, who's been on the committee, and some background to get everyone up to the same place in their knowledge of where we are and what we've done. During the meeting, we talked about the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations regarding school start times for teens. That was published in August of 2014. That recommends that students should start school 8:30 a.m. or later. In that recommendation, Mr. Asher was explaining to us that the American Academy of Pediatrics is a very conservative organization. It's very difficult. They don't just accept anything that they might hear is not a bad idea. They're kind of wear your helmet when you're riding a bike, put your seatbelt on, and start school later kind of approach. So we did agree in the meeting, I apologize if I already said this, that the group was going to look into some grant opportunities to be able to look into offsetting the cost of understanding what it would take to change school start times, how they would change, all the costs that would be associated with it, and how it could work. So we're looking for grants to be able to have someone answer those questions and present us with some ideas as a district. So that's what kind of the major next step the committee was looking to go do. Our next meeting is on October 24th at 4 p.m. We did have the need to appoint the full committee, Craig, from before it was just, right now it's June and I. I do know at least people that we're going to add, but there may be a couple of more members that were a part of it last fall. Some of them, I'm not clear if they want to continue, and they just weren't able to make this meeting. So I want to clarify that. The meeting, we just...
them tonight, or do you want to wait till next week? Or next meeting?
We could appoint who I have, and then add more at a future meeting. Right now, we already have June appointed. As far as principals, I just listed those three, Jim McMahon, Diane Gleason, and Kristen Pratt. And then there are two teacher representatives, Shelley Amari and Jim Landry. Shelley's also a parent in the district. And then we have, Then we have parent, Irene Cogden. I can provide you with the spelling of her name. I don't have that off the top of my head. I think that's everybody. June, Gary, Shelley, Diane, Tim, Jim, Irene, and Kristen. And then, of course, me and me. I wrote the notes, so my name wasn't down here. But I'm already appointed.
And are those all voting members?
That's the way the committee was set up last time. So that's a total of 9
Susan.
9 people.
Put them here from the email. I don't know if it's
Yes.
easier for you to look at.
So there's a few parents and teachers that I just have to confirm if they want to continue.
In addition to those?
In addition to
To
these.
these, okay.
It would be, I'm guessing at the most like 2 or 3, maybe 4, maybe, but yes. So that's everybody. Oh, Irene's last name is spelled C-O-N-G-D-O-N. Like everybody else, you know.
I move to appoint the 9 members per Susan to the school start time committee.
Okay, it's myself and June O'Neill, Gary Asher, Shelley Amari, Diane Gleason, Tim McMahon, Jim Landry, Irene Cogden, and Kristen Pratt.
Do you want me to second that, or maybe somebody else should?
Somebody want to second? Second. Thank you.
Gary Asher?
Yes.
So that'll bring that subcommittee from 2 to 9.
How many are there?
Any
9 total.
other questions or comments? For Susan? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you, Susan. Anything else on school start times?
No, we'll meet next time and keep you, everyone had action items coming out of the meeting, so not everyone, but a lot of us had action items coming out of the meeting, and I've already seen the emails of information being provided. And
Excellent, I appreciate it. Warrant subcommittee, so available for committee review are accounts payable warrants 20-0905, 20-0912A, 20-0912B, 20-0913, 20-0919, 20-0926, and 20-1003, and payroll warrants dated 9/12/19 and 9/26/19.
you know what? I didn't ask if, June, you had anything else you wanted to add.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, you're good. Okay.
All right, that is it for subcommittees. Moving on to new business. School operating protocols in your package should be the next version of the protocols based on some feedback and discussion. They've been shortened, condensed down to one page, and hopefully are easier to read. I don't know if hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at them, and if you have any questions or comments, hopefully comments have been incorporated if you have any questions. That'll be the time, otherwise we will look to approve them. Everybody good? Very good. I'll entertain a motion to approve the school operating protocols for the North Middlesex Regional School Committee.
The one on the packet doesn't have the edits still.
The one I'm looking at does.
Maybe I'm just looking at the word support versus supports on the
Yep.
5th bullet.
That's the, is that the 4th bullet down? Support one another as
No,
professionals?
the 5th bullet.
So I have it as, and then support decisions regardless of personal opinion.
Okay, the one
And then
I'm
I
looking
have,
at has
so let me
the
read that whole bullet, because it's
Okay.
had some changes. 5, avoid bias and instead consider research, best practice, public input, and financial impacts in all decision-making, and then support decisions regardless of personal opinions.
Was that the one that was in the packet?
It's not, I dropped the S on support and put instead in front of consider.
Are all the other?
All the other ones are the same.
So, avoid bias and
And then-
instead consider research best practice.
Yes, I can share this with everybody.
Financial impacts in all decision-making and support decisions regardless of personal opinion.
Mhm.
So technically, we will entertain a motion to approve the school operating protocols for the North Middlesex Regional School Committee as just amended by Mr.
And I just shared them with everybody again.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom and Mike. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, those passed. Thank you very much. Next is the school committee meeting norms, which should be in that same folder in the packet.
Yeah, what I did is I copied them and shared that, so there must have been some updates since then, so I don't know if this one's been updated.
This one has not been updated.
That should be. This is also, since our last meeting, has been condensed significantly.
On this one, I just worked to avoid repetition from the protocols, because some of them kind of went over both lists. So if it was in the protocols, I took it off the norms, and vice versa.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the school committee meeting norms as presented.
So moved.
I'll give that to Tom. Give a
Second.
Tom and Mike again. Any questions
Do we vote on the last one?
or comments on those? Do you have a question?
Did we, I must have been distracted. Did we actually vote yes on the operating protocols?
Yes.
We did that, okay.
Yes.
I was involved. I didn't hear it, sorry. I was yes on that.
Are you good on the norms?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you. Will's not even here. He'd be proud we're moving quickly through the agenda.
Oh, that's a kiss of death.
I know, right? I just jinxed it. Next is the FLAC Collaborative proposal for a capital fund. Superintendent?
I'm going to pass it off to Nancy, if that's
All right,
okay.
Nancy.
So the FLAC Collaborative is requesting the approval of a capital reserve fund, which would work a lot like a capital stabilization fund. The funds that would go into that would be 75% of their excess surplus, and it would come out only for capital items that are approved by the Board of Directors with a 2/3 vote. They provided in the packet an overview of what the capital fund is about with a lot more detail than I'm giving you right now, but essentially the board sent it off to the various member towns to approve. The reserve, this capital reserve would only have a balance of no more than $3 million, and they would be funds that would be used to support the acquisition and maintenance of fixed assets which address the strategic priorities of the capital plan. That would be approved by the board. This year is the first year in a number since prior to 2010 where they've had a surplus. Their surplus for the 2018 fiscal year was $136,556. So I believe that they're intending that this will go to all the member school committees for approval. If it does pass with 2/3, then those funds, they would divert to this capital fund. As you are familiar with Valley Collaborative has had an excess surplus, which they turn back to the town. So in this case, FLAC would divert, 75% would automatically go into the capital fund for things that they would need for capital purchases. 25% would get returned to the member towns.
And then anything over $3 million? If that balance?
Right, if they had a $3 million surplus, yeah.
Okay.
Or after over the number of years it gets built up so that they have $3 million, the excess surplus would come to the member towns.
Did you say this was the first year that they've had a surplus? Is that what
Yeah,
I just heard?
they provided in the packet, they provided a sort of a history with the sort of running excess surplus being the bottom line. They weren't running a deficit, they just didn't have, they're allowed 25% excess surplus. And this is the first year where they had hit that benchmark. So it's a good idea. I mean, generally, having a capital fund is a good thing. This is, we weren't 100% sure today whether Valley is the same thing, but I would guess not, since the return of the funds from Valley have been fairly significant. I would kind of be surprised if they had one, but it's possible.
And then just for clarity, we are voting as, our vote counts as a vote as a member town of the FLAC Collaborative. Is that
Correct. It has to be passed by 2/3 of the member school committees.
So the line above it, though, line number 7 says excess surplus, and it shows an excess surplus of, if it's in brackets, does that mean that it's not, or in parentheses, does that mean that it was a deficit?
It's below the threshold.
Okay.
So there wouldn't have been any money turned back to the town that year, and there wouldn't have been any money available to go into the fund, is the way I'm reading that.
Now, just to make clear, FLAC has all of their own expenses, kind of like what you do if they have a building or they rent. That comes out of the tuition that they get from the different schools. They have their own vans, it looks like, or at least they're purchasing vans. So that's where all of their costs would be. What is their, I'm going to say, is their budget is the, the top line, the expenses, is their full budget $5 million, or do they have a higher?
That's the equivalent of like what they spent for the full year, would be my guess. It's not the budgetary amount. Like our budget might be say 52 million, you spend 51,500,000, so this is the actual
Okay,
expenditures.
so, yeah, so but that's, very similar to what they're, and they're looking for a $3 million reserve, or up to a $3 million?
Up to 3 million.
Am I understanding this right, that from 2010 to 2015, they were running a deficit of almost $900,000 each year?
They're not running a deficit, their budget to actual didn't hit a 25% allowed surplus threshold. So they have to, like in our case, when we have our excess and efficiency, we can only have 5% of our operating budget in that surplus. They have a 25% surplus number, and so it's not a deficit in their budget, it's just meaning they didn't make as much, they didn't have as much money left over at the end of the year. And they end up with money when they have either revenues that come in as unexpected or the expenses aren't as high. In their case, they have they have members to their collaborative, and then they have students that are there that are not part of a member community, and those tuition costs are higher.
Of course.
So sometimes they end up with more revenue than planned, and that's how you end up with money in the surplus bucket. So over time, they've pretty much been running, what it means, they've been pretty much running their expenses to revenue pretty close to the number.
Does the state not have a limit on capital fund reserves like they do for an E&D?
Are you asking about how much they should have available?
Well, $3
Just in
million.
the reserves? They
Yeah.
do. I'm just looking for the language on it. It's probably, so I'm just seeing here. Last year, was the first year FLAC reached and exceeded the 25% for the collaborative fund balance cap allowed by law.
Right, just like we can only have
Right.
5% in
Right.
our E&D before we have to
So it's
give it
capped at
back.
25% of the year's general fund expenses. So they can keep more in their surplus revenue than we can. So ours is 5, collaboratives are 25%. But again, I think the reason for that type of capital reserve, or it's a way for them to have, if they have to purchase a building or rent a building, they need to have those funds available.
And if you would like the executive director to come to a meeting to explain it, he can come to a meeting, either himself or the business manager, prior to voting, if it would make the committee feel more comfortable.
I think a capital fund, we've certainly looked at that, and we've had comments from the public, our communities, about having a capital fund so we don't have to go back to the communities for every big capital project that we have, and I can certainly understand the value of having this. $3 million seems like an awful lot as a cap for their fund with such a small budget. They're looking at having half of their budget in a reserve fund.
And some of it just may be the leases that they have, and the goal to eventually move away from leases. Because they have the lease, they have the elementary and middle school with us, and now they also have a high school in Leominster. So that could potentially be, I know that's something that they're looking at, is the amount of property that they're leasing versus something more permanent like a Valley Collaborative has, where they have leases and permanent facilities.
Okay.
But I can ask Richard to attend. They don't have to have it approved until December 5th. And I would just need to know so I can invite him to the meeting on the 28th or something in early November.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of share Randy's concern about the $3 million, just looking at what their capital plan is. Not being such a large percentage of the budget, it just doesn't seem to need, I don't know if they're just leaving themselves a cushion, which is fine, or if they have some other plans that aren't outlined in their capital plan document they provide.
So I would definitely be supportive of them having a capital plan, or the capital reserve fund, rather.
Okay. Shall I invite him to the meeting on the 28th?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the 21st, I think, right?
We moved it to the 20th. Pepperell Town meeting is on the 21st now.
Oh, I'm
Special
sorry.
town meeting. Just happened.
Okay. Gotcha.
Any other discussion on that? We'll take no action on that for now. The next one, Minuteman Neshoba Healthcare Group Conflict of Interests, and Nancy, if I could put you on the spot for that one.
Sure.
I don't understand all the legalese in here.
So in the packet is a letter from, let me just open it up here, if you don't mind.
Norris Murray and...
Yeah, that's it. This whole packet is in your folder in there.
Oh, it's in here? Oh, that's right.
It's number 12 under the packet. So the Minuteman Neshoba Health Group has been in communication with the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group, and they had received an opinion letter regarding people that represent the district at the Minuteman Neshoba Health Group board. And for our district, that's myself as an alternate and Anne Marie Mahan, and she's the main person. And what the letter essentially said was, if you're representing the district in this matter of health insurance, and you also take the health insurance plan in the district, that you need to file a conflict of interest statement, which was been put in the packet. And so both of us have filed that conflict of interest statement to the appointing authority, and in this case, the school committee appoints the member to the Minuteman Neshoba Health Board, and that's essentially it. If there's deemed to be a minor issue, essentially it gets signed and approved, but if it was a major conflict where us receiving health benefits might affect our decisions and how we would vote for the district. That's again, back to the letter, there's quite a long conflict of interest legal opinion in here, but that's essentially what it says.
I mean, I don't know, I almost think it's better.
Is it just that we're accepting the conflict of interest and still appointing you, or?
There's a section on that form that I guess probably makes sense to read, and if you agree to that, if the full committee who are the
The
appointing...
disclosure form?
Yeah, the ones that we signed.
Yep. Do you want me to read those or summarize them anyway?
It's near the particular matter on the very first page, my duties require. And then determination. As an appointing official, as required by Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, I have reviewed the particular matter and financial interest identified by a municipal employee. I have determined that the financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the municipality may expect from the employee.
And then this is for our Director of Human Resources, Anne Marie, sorry, I cannot pronounce right,
Chucharonima.
Thank you. For Nancy Haynes, and that's it. So there's two disclosures for the reasons that Nancy just read. They're both identical.
I move to, tell me if this is correct, I move to accept the conflict of interest submissions for Anne Marie Tujoning Mahan
Yep.
and Nancy Haynes in representing the district within the Minuteman Neshoba Health Group. Would that satisfy it?
Yep.
Do you have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. For the record, Tom is beating Dave 4-1 on the seconds tonight.
Keeping
Dave,
track.
So if I'm reading this right, though, it might not allow people from our district, representatives from our district, to participate in voting?
Correct. If this was not in place.
Okay, if this was not in place, okay.
Correct.
Sorry, I was
No
not
problem.
understanding that part.
It's the first time this has come up, by the way. There's been health trusts around the state, and this is, I think, the very first time that anyone's ever brought this issue up, so.
Yeah.
And the legal opinion was provided, so I think that's been a long time coming as far as logistics. but this is the end result.
All right, any other questions or comments on the disclosure? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Tom.
Tom did. Not Dave. Next on the agenda is the MOU Emergency Dispensing Site at North Middlesex Regional High School. We're going to defer to Ms.
Yeah, where you want to go.
That was essentially, previously, the site was at Hawthorne Brook, and now they're looking just for something more centrally located, a little bit larger, easily accessible for the town of Townsend. And it was basically something where all emergency personnel met here at the school, fire department, police department, Board of Health, myself, Nancy, Mr. McMahon, and they would like permission to change the location from Hawthorne Brook to North Middlesex Regional High School. I'm not sure if the other towns have emergency dispensing sites or not. Townsend's the only one that's come forward to...
And I think it's because they moved. They moved out of they were at the high school, moved to Hawthorne Brook, and now would like to move back to the high
Yes.
school now that the construction's finished. And the MOU just outlines just the expectations of our staff at the district and Townsend personnel should an event occur.
And it has been reviewed by legal counsel.
So this is just a situation where people are coming and getting a shot or medication. They're not, this isn't housing people.
Correct.
Yeah. No, it's not a
Just
shelter
a walk
situation.
in, have something done, walk out. Okay.
It's a vaccine, something like that. That's something when needed.
I was going to say, if it's been in the district for a while, high school, then back to Hawthorne Brook, and then come back to high school, how long actually has this been in place in the district?
Not even sure.
Many years?
Probably.
I think at
Well, I think
least a decade.
It became a requirement at some point for the boards of health to identify the emergency dispensing locations, and I think that's probably when they did it initially, and years ago, probably, would be my guess.
I move to approve the MOU for emergency dispensing site at the North Middlesex Regional High School.
Second.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes, thank you. And next, we have the lease approval for the mower at NMS and VBES. Ms. Hansby?
Sure. This is a 5-year lease for a John Deere tractor/mower that will fill the capital plan requirement for, it was listed under Nissitisset's capital plan, but it's really going to be shared by both schools. And so we had originally planned to do this year as part of the capital plan, and this is the total payments over the 5 years and the interest cost. It's being purchased through a collective purchase agreement with Sourcewell, which is also providing the lease agreements as well. It's very close to it's a little bit higher than what was in the capital plan. The capital plan had $9,600 a year. This is $9,863.55 for 5 payments over.
That's exactly what I was just going to ask you.
And very close.
I move to approve the lease for the mower for Nissitisset Middle School and Varnbrook Elementary School.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you, that passes. So the next is a series of MASC resolutions. For those new to the committee, at the annual Mass Association of School Committees conference in November, their board has a number of resolutions that they put forward that they then ask member schools, towns, and districts to vote on. And that's kind of our voice as a delegate at the meeting. We would get a vote, and you're basically giving us direction on how to vote at that meeting, is what the series of votes on these will be. I know last year, some of these were pretty in-depth, and I think it spanned 2 meetings. So if there's any we need to defer, we can revisit them at our next meeting on the 28th. So we will go through them. They're all in the packet. If anybody wants a hard copy, I have a couple extra hard copy books, if anybody is interested. No? Yes? Did you go in this, Jim? I did. In the mail? All right. So we will need to go through these one at a time. And the first one is resolution number 1, banning polystyrene in schools.
If everybody agrees, I found it much faster to read the resolution,
Yeah.
starting with the therefore be it resolved.
All the whereases, yeah.
Yeah, just skip down to the bottom.
So resolution 1, banning polystyrene from schools. Therefore be it resolved, MASC urged the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to ban the use of expanded polystyrene foam cups, bowls, plates, and trays for Massachusetts public schools by the 2022-2023 school year. And there's a rationale paragraph here that says proponents cite the presence of toxins, including carcinogens in polystyrene, and note that containers manufactured with the substance can be found in food and beverage containers that might pose a risk to students and others.
I believe that, didn't Whitson's report when they were here last, that the students at the high school successfully lobbied to get them to switch to more of a paperboard kind of trays instead of, was it polystyrene that they used to be using?
It was something like that, yeah.
So I thought that was great that our students have taken that initiative to put that together. I'm not saying that I could support this. I don't know the cost to the district.
It's one of those, we went through this at work, a discussion such as this, on the impacts on the environment, a whole bunch of different factors about getting rid of big plastic cups and made with paper, and it ended up actually being more of an impact with paper, just because of all the other things that go involved with producing those types of products versus plastic in that case. So it was eye-opening that, to your point, there could be additional costs, there could be additional impacts that we don't know about because we're not saying what they may replace them with.
Right.
So would we want them to replace polystyrene with plastic cups, paper, wood?
I mean, and I've heard people say that it's actually better to go with paper than iPads or computers, as far as environmental impact.
Right.
So there's all kinds of things to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other?
We also can, by the way, direct the delegate to have a change in the motion. So if there's something we feel like we want paper, we can change this motion on the floor to include a statement of saying, okay, we want to ban the polystyrene and replace it with, or have something in there saying that the state will have to look at the monetary impact to districts and reimburse them if there is a monetary impact. So there are changes that we can make to these resolutions. If anybody feels strongly about some of it, but something doesn't sit right with you, or you think there needs to be something added to it.
I guess, I think there's, what's the expression, bigger fish to fry. I think if I'm going to prioritize what I want MSC to go after, this isn't sitting at the top of the list by a long shot.
Yeah. No. I would agree.
And we can vote.
Take no action.
Yea, nay, or take no action, right?
Right.
Or abstain, like any of the ballot.
You get spread too many directions, you don't get any of them done, so.
Right. Do you want to make a motion?
I was going to say, I make a motion to vote down Resolution 1 banning polystyrene from schools for the reason that it's just not a priority.
So we're voting to not support it, basically?
Not support it.
Okay. Because we could take no action, we could support, or we could not support.
Mhm.
Okay, we're voting to not support Resolution 1.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any other questions or comments on Resolution 1? So a yes vote on this will instruct us to vote no on Resolution 1.
Or take no action on Resolution 1, right? Wasn't that what it was?
The motion was to vote no.
No. Oh, okay. To
But our-
vote no?
To vote no.
Okay.
That we,
Our one vote at the conference will be no.
Will be no,
if you
correct.
vote yes right now.
yes. Is everybody clear on that? All right, so all those in favor of voting no on Resolution 1, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
With 3, that's Mike, Dave, and Tom against. June, you were a yes, correct?
I actually didn't
Did not
say
vote?
anything yet, sorry.
Okay, so then that does not pass. So 3,
So we're
and
not supporting. Is that what we just did?
we decided not to vote no, is all we did.
Decided not to vote no. All right.
So Susan.
I move to support Resolution 1 banning polystyrene from schools.
We can have my Robert's rules and see if that's a valid motion. I think that would be right. It's a technical.
Again, can I cite the,
No one seconded it
can I
yet,
cite
so
the rationale?
Give me 1 second.
parliamentary procedure figuring here.
I just want to make sure we do it right, because if that's technically the same motion, then you would just need to move to reconsider.
Okay.
But then that would be the same motion. Do you know the answer to that? I don't remember.
I'm sorry, did you
It's
vote on it?
technically a
No.
different
I was going to
motion.
say, it's different
First
because you're
It's
not.
just reversing it, but it's still different. Okay.
So did you abstain?
Then I think we're-
Oh, we can ask Rob.
Robert,
Right. She hasn't
Yeah.
voted yet for the first one.
Right, no, I hadn't answered. So I'm going to say no on the first one.
okay.
Okay. So that means the majority of people
Don't.
here do not want us to vote no at the conference.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
We'll let the record show that Mr. Templeton has arrived. Welcome.
Took me a while to get into the school. Who designed this place?
So you may know the answer to this question. It's a parliamentary procedure question. So a motion was made and did not pass. Can someone make the reverse of that motion? Or do you have to move to reconsider?
Well, you know what? It's not the reverse of the motion, is it?
Someone made a
Well,
motion.
no, I guess it will be a
Yeah,
different motion because
Yeah,
it's
it's
voting yes.
completely different, because
Yes.
we were voting that we were going to vote no
No.
at the conference.
Right,
And that wasn't supported.
right.
But we don't know how to vote at the conference at the moment.
Correct. So now we need a motion to vote yes. Okay, so your motion is good, Dave, if you want to.
Okay. And can I, before I make the motion, can I recite
You can make the motion, we have
rationale?
discussion after the,
Okay. So again, I vote to support, I vote for our vote to be in support of Resolution 1 banning polystyrene from schools.
do I have a second? From anybody?
I'll second it for you, Dave.
All right.
I was going to say, we might be taking no action if there wasn't a second.
Okay, so you want to clarify or provide
Yes,
some background?
again, proponents cite the presence of toxins including carcinogens and polystyrene and note the containers manufactured with the substance can be found in food and beverage containers that might pose a risk to students and others. If we aren't here
You're going to use the computer.
to support the health and well-being of the students in our schools, then I don't know what we're doing.
I have a comment, if I may.
Please.
The new
Mr.
guy can
Templeton.
talk.
Welcome back to the school committee.
So me personally, I'm all for banning polystyrene and everything that goes along with it. and I think everybody should do it at home and all of that. My issue with this is that I want to be in charge of my own destiny when it comes to what I want to do at home, and I think the school should maintain that as well. So if somebody comes and says, "Thou shalt ban polystyrene," and that all of a sudden adds a $50,000 line item to our budget next year because of X, then I don't think that's something that we should have somebody else making a decision for. If we as a school or a school committee want to say we don't want polystyrene, then I'm all supportive of that, but we look at it in terms of what's our budget and how we're gonna go forward with it.
Has Whitson's provided us any figure at all as to how this might change our food service budget? So a number like, yeah.
I think I can help a little bit. So, and I don't have the exact details, that's why I was kind of hesitant, but at Barnum Brook, I believe they're using paper now, and they were piloting that this year to see how it went at the elementary level. Some of the schools have dishwashers, and that they can be used instead. We just installed a dishwasher at Hoffman Brook. It's not, I don't know that it's totally configured yet, but should be, so there wouldn't be an issue there. The high school uses paper, I believe, now. I'm not sure if it's exclusively paper, though, because this specifies foam cups, bowls, plates, and trays from public schools. I mean, assume that means everybody, not just food service.
Right.
So there's that issue that I wouldn't have any way to be able to tell whether we're, have a student activity in the afternoon or they're using those or what. But the cost difference in looking at the paper versus the foam was approximately half, it was almost double for that. But again, it's just one small component of the budget, so I think there's agreement with Whitson's. They'll go ahead and move forward with whatever we want to do. It's possible that across the board, I'd have to done the math on all schools for each one of these items, but it's been a direction we've been moving in to move away from them anyhow. So this would be sort of another way of the sense of going through for us to, have this issue get solved.
Mike has his hand up. Craig?
Right?
I agree with what Dave said, but also what Rob said. I would prefer to take no action just due to the information we don't have, but maybe have Whitson's look at this and keep an eye on this, because I do think it's something we should look at just for the safety of the students, but I just don't think they've really provided us much information to go on with this.
I just want to repeat my point of, this is not how I want MASC spending our dues money. I think there's other priorities. I'm not saying it's not a good thing to be done. I'm saying that there's more important things, and you can only spread yourself so thin and go in so many directions. I don't think this should be their top priority. So that's why I'm not in favor of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Any other comments? Are you still good with your motion, Dan?
Yep.
Okay. So all those in favor of voting yes on Resolution 1, meaning we will support Resolution 1 as it's written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? So that does not pass. Dave was the sole yay, I believe, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nays. So,
we'll be taking no action at the conference, right?
So I move that we direct the delegate to take no action for Resolution 1 banning polystyrene from schools.
Second.
all right, so the motion on the floor is to take no action on Resolution 1. Any other discussion or comments? So a yes vote will instruct us to take no action. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Yes. One opposed. Any abstentions? That motion carries. Thank you. All right. Resolution 2, pertaining to educator diversity and professional licensure. Therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees calls for the elimination of the MTEL in the MA Performance Assessment for Leaders as licensing requirements for educators. And be it further resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees calls for the governance and licensure of professional educators to be vested in a board comprised of licensed educators. Rationale is the licensure of Massachusetts educators is governed by the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. The oversight of licensure by non-educators has resulted in a complex, difficult licensure system that discourages qualified candidates from applying for licensure and employment in Massachusetts. Recruiting a diverse, qualified cohort of new educators will be enhanced if the barriers presented by MTEL are removed and if licensure regulations and standards are placed in the hands of a committee of educators. An expanded explanation in support of this can be found on the MASC website. MTEL is the Massachusetts Tests for Educator Licensure.
Nice job reading that.
Thank you.
I don't think I know enough to vote on this.
Yeah, I don't know enough about MTEL and what it does, and
I would be comfortable supporting the Ellington School Committee that proposed this. I think it's an archaic test. Personally, I don't think it's a measure as to whether or not someone will be a good educator or not. I think it's prohibitive. Again, it's a standardized test. I don't think it measures someone's success or failure as a teacher. I also think that the Mass PALS program is extremely difficult if we want to train administrators to come in or train administrators in-house. The amount of hours that they have to put forth are extremely difficult. It's very difficult to find the time for them to do that and to grow talent from within. So I would much rather have the licensure go to a board of educators and have them decide.
I would second that. I think I was fortunate enough when I transitioned from New Hampshire to Massachusetts that I had reciprocity in years service, so the PAL was waived for me, but it's pretty daunting to expect somebody to make that switch when you're talking about bringing people in for other states or something like that.
And I would say that we certainly have 2 people in the district now that are doing the PALS program, and it's extremely difficult for them to do their job and do the PALS in order for us to, again, grow administrators in the district in-house and be able to move them into administrative roles. So to me, having a committee of professionals that are educators determine whether or not someone should be licensed, I think is far more appropriate than a pencil paper test, or it's a computer test now, but it's the only measure that they use. And it puts very little stock in the student teaching that's been done, and the person's education. It puts it all on a test. And if you don't pass it, you can't teach.
If you've ever tried to reach out to the Department of Licensure, it is maybe the most frustrating experience that you can go through.
If you actually get to talk to a human.
Usually you don't.
Yeah, I think I waited 8 months one time to ask a question. Yeah, and I can also reiterate with my own experiences, it has absolutely nothing to do with being a classroom teacher. You don't use, might as well be apples and oranges. There's just nothing there. So I concur wholeheartedly.
So I move that we direct the delegate to vote yes on Resolution 2 pertaining to educator diversity and professional licensure.
Second.
Rob, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that is unanimous, thank you. Good to know we don't have to vote 3 times. Resolution 3, school transportation. Therefore, be it resolved that in order to promote greater competition for bus service contracts and improve performance, MASC calls for the creation of a working group to advise the legislature on the best solutions to support greater competition and higher performance from transportation companies. Be it further resolved that in order to promote greater competition for bus service contracts, the legislature should eliminate MGL Chapter 71, Section 7C, and authorize a deeper analysis into the lack of bidders on school transportation contracts. Rationale. Additional information can be found on the website and through our own experience, I'm sure.
Yes, I think everyone knows where I stand on this.
Any comments or questions from anybody?
Could you remind, what is it about that statute that they want to eliminate that's causing the problem?
Do you want me to look up what that statute is?
I didn't know
It says
if
statute.
Nancy just knew off the top of her head what.
I just looked it up.
It's on the bid process.
Yeah.
It's the bidding process?
Yes.
Statute?
Yeah, I mean, all the whereases are about how the amount of competition has decreased over the years. Most towns only get one thing, one bid for their things. Yeah, all the whereases are.
So 7C, as I'm reading one of their whereases, 7C prohibits certain uses of regional transportation authorities to provide school district transportation services. So they want to eliminate that. I'm sure the Mass website has more legalese than their whereas does. Any other comments or discussion? All right, we'll entertain a motion for Resolution 3.
I'll make a motion that we support Resolution 3. Vote yes.
Second.
Okay, Mike and Randy, any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that is unanimous as well. Resolution 4, climate change. We should divide these up and have everybody read one. Therefore be it resolved that MASC calls on Congress to take swift and effective action on climate change to protect current and future students. Be it further resolved that MASC advocates for funding school infrastructure needs and emergency funding for disaster relief caused by natural catastrophes and extreme weather events. Rationale, this resolution represents a call by advocates for action on climate change at the federal level and for state funding to anticipate the climatological implications of emergencies they might cause.
I move to support Resolution 4, climate change.
Second.
Dave and Tom, any discussion or comments?
Similar to, I think this is not arguing whether climate change should be addressed or not. I just think it's way out of the scope of what MASC is here for and what we're here for. And again, you spread yourself too thin. So I would not support in this environment and these conditions having MASC spend time lobbying about climate change. We have important educational issues that need to have time spent on it. And other folks who their mission is an environment and climate change, I think that would be a good way, a place for them to spend their time.
I'm also confused that I'm not sure what they mean by MASC advocates for funding for school infrastructure need and emergency funding for disaster. Well, emergency funding but what's the funding for school infrastructure needs? That's taking money away from, possibly away from, school buildings for education and trying to anticipate something that might happen. I'm not sure what they really mean by that, where that money's going to come from. So I get a little bit worried when we start talking about a lot of these funding initiatives when we don't have enough right now for what we need to educate the children in the buildings that we have. I want more information on what they meant by that and where that money's supposed to come from.
Yeah, we tend to agree. I mean, to me, there's a whole host of reasons why we shouldn't, MASC should focus on what they need to focus on.
Yeah, I agree. I had a similar question on the funding, like where funding from where?
And if, at the conference, being our delegate, I mean, you could ask questions like that, and if there's something, if people put amendments, you're making judgment calls on how you vote for the amendment based on what you're hearing here on the floor. So, there could be an amendment to eliminate the first, therefore, but not the second. And then the second one, there could be someone that comes up with what the funding is, although there's no way for them to know what the funding would be.
Yeah.
it's such a hot topic now, right? It's such a partisan topic that I don't think it has a place here.
Yeah. Someone want to make a motion one way or another?
I think
I already
Dave
moved.
did.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and
He
then
moved that we
seconded.
should support it
I
and
don't
vote
listen to
yes.
you. So your motion was to support it?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions before we vote? So a yes vote will support this and vote, have us vote yes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay?
Nay.
Any abstentions? So I have Dave and Tom as yes, and everybody else but Mike is no, and Mike abstained.
Right. You got June's?
Yes. Right, June, you were a no? So that does not pass. So we can have a motion to,
I make a motion, hold on. I make a motion to take no action on Resolution 4.
Second.
Randy and Rob, any other?
I would prefer that we vote no, because we don't get a voice at the table if we take no action. And if we believe that this is not how MASC should be spending their time, then we need to vote no.
Is that an amendment?
I don't know, can you completely turn the motion around?
It could, it has to be voted on, or Randy could just, or we could vote.
Yeah, I'd be good with that.
Yeah. I'll amend my motion to say no on Resolution 4.
I'll second that amendment.
All right. So, Rob and Randy, we are now at voting not to support Resolution 4. Any other comments or discussion?
Do we have to take a double vote here, one on the amendment and one on the main motion?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so we're voting on the amendment. This is to amend the motion from taking no action to voting no. This is strictly on the amendment. This is not on the actual delegate vote. So all those in favor of the amendment, please state aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so now the motion is to not support Resolution 4. A yes vote will instruct us to vote no on Resolution 4. Any other questions? You got all this, Robin?
See.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor of not supporting Resolution 4, please state aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So it's Dave and Tom. Any abstentions? Mike is abstaining. So that passes.
I'm sorry, who abstained?
Mike.
Mike.
Mike abstained. Dave and Tom were nays. Everybody else was a yes. So 5-2-1, it passes. Thank you. Resolution 5, full funding of transportation costs for students in foster care and student care.
State care?
State care, what is it?
Student care.
Student care, sorry. State care. Therefore, be it resolved that the Commonwealth should fully reimburse transportation funding for children in foster care and state care. DCF and DESE must complete the process to provide proper documentation for the Commonwealth to receive reimbursement for transportation expenses under Title 4-E of the Social Security Act. Be it further resolved that MASC advocate the Massachusetts General Court to properly calculate and assume the full expense of providing educational services to students in foster care and state care, including the cost of assessments, regular day and special education services, as well as out-of-district placements, transportation, and mental health services. And there's a long rationale. Do you want me to read the rationale?
I think that you should.
Of course you do. Because the foster care population is fluid, it is difficult for a school district to budget properly for unexpected transportation costs of students in foster care or state custody. Direct and full funding of transportation will remedy these problems while equitably and accurately allocating costs. The state auditor notes that the Commonwealth's failure to provide funding for the transportation of foster care students may be an unfunded mandate under the local mandate law, GL Chapter 29, Section 27C. This is a similar situation to that of the McKinney-Vento finding by Auditor Bump in 2011 through 2012. As the requirement is tied to federal funding under Title I, the need to provide transit to these students means this could potentially be a requirement passed by the state to local districts without offsetting funding. Massachusetts received over $220 million in Title I Part A grants in each of the fiscal years 2016, 2017, and 2018. While the reimbursement only offers a portion of the funds expended, it could help offset some of the expenses incurred by school districts to comply with state and federal laws. We applaud DCF and DESC for the effort underway to modify the federal plan to allow reimbursement to Massachusetts for expenses incurred by school districts. This resolution explicitly recognizes that, quote, education expenses, unquote, include all education-related costs associated with the imposition of federal requirements and the decision-making of the Department of Children and Families, DCF, regarding each foster child's residential situation. Direct state funding of these services will allow for a more accurate allocation of funds to affected communities. Funding for the state will also lessen the administrative time lost by central office staff trying to determine the district financially responsible for each student and seeking reimbursements after the fact. Estimated total costs less the estimated existing payments would net to approximately $56 million annually. More accurate data on student placements would sharpen this estimate.
I move that we vote in support of Resolution 5.
Second.
Dave and Randy, any discussion, questions, comments?
I just didn't know if Mr. Morgan or Mrs. Haynes had any feedback on this, on downside. I mean, sure, we'll take more money to help pay for things that costs we incur, but is there a downside that you're aware of?
I don't see there being a downside. I think pretty much as it says, it's something that we can't plan for, and we already have situations where we have student move-ins that we can't plan for and the services that they need over the course of the summer after the budget's been passed. So this would eliminate the potential of an additional surprise that we don't have a contingency fund for.
Right.
So I think it'd be, I would fully support this.
Any other comments?
I think just to speak in favor of this really quickly, having students that have been in the foster care system, any change, any disruption to their educational experience is a terrific detriment to them. So anything that we can do to support things like the transportation costs for them, to get them, to keep them into the same places, all the other disruptions that they have, if they can attend the same schools, and if we can receive the funding to allow them to do that, is of a benefit to everybody.
All right, anything else? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous, thank you.
Would you like me to give you a break in the meantime?
Sure, that would be very helpful. You get the short one, too.
Resolution 6, Universal Quality Pre-Kindergarten Access in Massachusetts. Therefore, be it resolved that MASC file or support legislation that will provide a sufficient appropriation for universal pre-K in Massachusetts and will achieve the actions necessary to provide access to good quality universal pre-K for all children in Massachusetts. Rationale: this resolution would help ensure that our underserved population of 3- and 4-year-olds will be provided with the supports and services necessary for school readiness and lasting success in the classroom and for future success. Knowing that these strategies are documented in increasing student success, our resolution will level the playing field by helping to ensure equity and beginning the process of closing the achievement gap for this vulnerable cohort of children.
I move to support resolution, that we vote in favor, that we vote in support of Resolution 6.
Second?
Second.
Dave and Randy, any discussion?
I kind of just go, again, I'd be interested in what superintendent has say about it, but again, I go back to, I get what's important, and I don't think anybody would argue with it. If there's legislation that says thou shall do it, then you can't do it, and I'm not seeing anything in here that's really leading me to believe that, I get concerned when it says you must do it, and it doesn't really talk about how the funding's gonna happen, right? So if we must do it, and we don't have the funding, then that's a challenge for us.
It's kind of like with the full-day kindergarten, they had that incentive, they had the grants for a little while for full-day kindergarten, and a lot of districts went to full-day because it was really good for the kids, and they had the money, and then the money went away, and it became the district's responsibility to fund the full-day kindergarten. Not that I regret we did it, but this could be another situation like that, where they may find the money to start to incentivize universal pre-K, and then people start implementing it, and then the money dries up, and it becomes part of the town's responsibility.
And they might not even come up with the initial money.
They may not come up with it.
I don't think does it even talk about the initial money?
No, it just talks about that it should...
Sufficient appropriation.
Yes.
Is it going to be a funded mandate or an unfunded mandate?
Yeah.
Funded mandate, I'll take it.
Again, I think it's tough to argue with the benefits of it, but with the difficulty that this district has with its budget, even hiring an additional 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teachers to fund this, to basically run a program and finding the space to do it would be extremely difficult. Right now, we actually don't have the space.
That's really expensive. I was going to say, we could make a motion, we could make an amendment to this to send out there that says that, fully funding the cost of it, but it's not just teachers.
No, it's classrooms.
It's space.
We would need Peter Fitz back.
Good luck with that.
Because, honestly, right now, if you look at the buildings in the district, they're full. The only building that's not full with our students is Squanicook, but that's full with preschool and FLAC, which the lease agreement is 2 more years after this year.
So they state on here that this resolution is a reaffirmation of a resolution from 2014. Did they just not do what they...
Well, I mean...
They're asking
Well,
for
just
the
advocate
appetite
for
for
it.
it.
They just want to...
So they just want to keep pushing? Is it looking for us to support them to keep pushing?
I think the other thing just to be cautious of is that another issue that we have in the district is daycare and access to daycare. And 3 to 4-year-olds, I would see parents seeing this as a viable option to put their kids in preschool. Again, I think it'd be very beneficial.
Yes.
As opposed to not having them not having them in any formal education. But how do we do that? What does that look like, and how do we fund something like that? So my concern is really around space and funding.
Every piece of data I've ever seen has said that preschool has terrific benefits on the education, cost benefit on literally everything. Preschool is probably one of the most beneficial things that we can do as a community. It is one of the best things. I'm sorry?
Nothing. It was nothing to do with what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's one of the best cost-benefit
Right, I
ratios
agree.
that there absolutely is. And again, we're in the education field, and I thought earlier we were hearing arguments for having MASC push for quality education. So,
Right.
Like I said, I'm fully supportive of the process of it. It's just, how can we do it within our budget? If we want to go ahead and figure out a way to do it, that's great. I just don't want somebody telling me I have to do it next year and fund it.
And I do agree. I think that it could save money in the end because of the benefits that it provides students with. It's the initial funding of it that I think would be difficult. So I can't say enough about it. I think it would be great, but I don't know how we get something like that launched here because of just the two obstacles that I outlined.
Well, we can make an amendment and just basically put in here that it needs to be fully funded. Because if they're going to get full funding for this, it kind of takes some of that cost away and allows districts, even if it is going to be like a 5-year thing.
And the fully funding has to be space and operating costs.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think how to word a amendment.
Digital space, may do operating costs.
I mean, is sufficient appropriation as stated here, is that?
I would certainly want to
that
make
just
sure
a
that
shot?
space, I would make sure that,
but
I
what
would
is
want
sufficient?
space to be part of that. Because a lot of times when you're talking about the cost of education,
Oh, yeah.
they think of, they don't think of the space requirements that districts may be tight on.
We would likely need modulars
Yeah.
or something like this.
But that we will achieve the actions necessary to provide access like that.
Again, this isn't legislation that we're voting on either.
No.
This is encouraging our state government to support universal pre-K.
Well, this is encouraging MASC.
to encourage
push.
our state government.
Yes, yes.
But they can't just encourage 3 and 4-year-old preschool, they have to encourage it with funding,
Yes.
is all we're saying.
Right, and this is the way that we'd let MASC know the conditions that we need for what they're pushing, or what we want them to push for.
So it's something, I don't know,
You need the financial support and like NASB support.
to cover costs related to operating costs and capital costs, capital and operating costs associated with, trying to find exactly the right words. Full funding to include both operating costs and capital costs.
Associated with implementing universal pre-K.
Right. The operating cost that may be needed to make space available to run the program or something like that. I don't know, maybe that's too detailed. Looks like Randy's working on something there.
I would just say therefore be it resolved that I'm sorry.
My motion is
No,
still on
please
the
do.
floor, by the way.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think we're trying to come up with
I
an
think they're
amendment to your
gonna amend
motion.
Well, maybe we can do that after we vote on the motion, right? Wouldn't that be the order?
Well, no.
Because once we vote to yes, then we move on to the next one.
All right, I think we're working to figure out how to support
I'll support it with
the
the comments.
resolution, at least partly.
So did you have a wording?
I was just going to say, therefore be it resolved that MSC file or support legislation that will provide full appropriation for universal pre-K.
So just change sufficient to full. And does that cover capital and operating in your opinion?
I don't think you're going to prove anything, but, you know.
Is that?
If you wanted to put full and then put, you know.
Capital and operating?
Capital and operating.
I mean, I personally think that's an important distinction.
Okay.
And just put
Yeah.
support legislation will provide capital, operating and capital, you know,
Full
full
appropriation.
operating and capital appropriation for universal pre-K.
Oh, instead of sufficient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the word direct, if this is a successful amendment and then the full motion is successful, then what we're directing Craig to do is to bring the amendment to the floor of the MASC delegate conference. I think you increase the likelihood of passing this resolution if we bring this resolution forward,
Absolutely.
this amendment
The
forward.
amendment, yeah, I agree.
We're going to be the new Framingham.
So, somebody want to make that amendment to Dave's motion?
Sure. I'll make the amendment to change the wording to provide full full operating and capital appropriation for universal pre-K in Massachusetts.
Second.
Randall and Susan, any discussion on the amendment? Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment, changing sufficient to say full capital and operating, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the amendment passes.
Who seconded the amendment?
Susan?
And now we will go back to Dave's amended motion, which is to support Resolution 6 as amended. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of supporting Resolution 6 as amended, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Can we go again?
Sure. Resolution 7, Poverty and Children. Therefore be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committee will prioritize as a matter of its public policy agenda and file for and support legislation to support the eradication of poverty among children in Massachusetts and advocate for social and economic justice for students and their families that will include support for a revenue stream that supports social and economic priorities for children and families, support for state program and services that serve children at greatest social and emotional risk, which are easily accessible to students and families, advocacy for nutrition programs that eradicate hunger among children, advocacy for health care including vision, hearing, dental, and mental health through accessible service providers, and support for pre-kindergarten programs for all children, advocacy for increasing educational opportunities for children to grow both inside and outside of school. Rationale. This resolution would help ensure that our underserved population of school children will be provided with the supports and services necessary for lasting success in the classroom and in their future. Knowing that by eliminating the ravages of poverty, these strategies have been proven to increase positive student outcomes, this resolution will level the playing field by helping to ensure equity and to close the achievement gap for this vulnerable cohort of children. I'll move to support Resolution 7.
Second.
Dave, any discussion?
Yeah, and this also is a reaffirmation of a 2015 resolution, according to this. I think all of these things that they want to do we've seen it help with children. All the reports that are out there talk about if the kids are fed, if they're healthy, they learn better. It's about the children, which is everything that we are about.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that's unanimous, thank you.
Can I go on?
Sure.
Resolution 8, resolution for access to menstrual supplies. Therefore be it resolved that MASC work with state and federal legislatures to provide additional funding to provide free access to menstrual products from the school nurse and in restrooms and locker rooms. Rationale, proponents assert that menstrual supplies are basic necessities which some students may not have on hand in school at any particular moment or may not be able to afford in general. They view these items similar to other products found in nurses' offices or in restrooms as basic, essential commodities for everyday use that should be available to all students without charge.
Do we provide those here?
Excuse me?
Do we provide those here?
We don't, but this is actually pretty timely because Principal McMahon called me last week, and we do have a student group up here with an advisor who asked for permission to ask for donations to have this very thing happen here at the high school, and it was approved by Mr. McMahon and myself. So it's not something, obviously, that we're not getting funding for it. But the students who asked, they actually want to seek the donations as opposed to asking for it out of the budget, which, again, if it's something that we can provide, we'll certainly provide it. We'll find a way to make it happen, but they'd prefer to do it themselves. So that is being done here at the high school. It's in process.
And I can definitely see having it available from the nurse. I am a little bit concerned, just things I've seen in my lifetime when they tend to be available freely in the bathroom. And a large number of them move, more than are being used in the moment, let's just say.
So I think that where this is something that the students have brought this up.
Right.
And it's something that they're passionate about and they want it to happen. Obviously, there will be conversations with regard to using what you need, appropriate use, and things of that nature, or it won't continue. I will say that something that Principal McMahon has done is that pretty much everything that the students have brought to him, he is willing to listen and willing to give it a shot until they prove otherwise.
And I'm totally in support of North Middlesex, pursuing what's been brought up. I'm just curious about it being a mandate and we're forced to do it.
Right.
Is that something we want to do in the restrooms where we don't have, I don't know.
The ability to account for it.
I mean, maybe
I
there's
understand that.
data out there and studies available that says it's really not a problem, it's minimal. What walks and people are respectful of it. And you know what, and maybe there are some students that do need to take a few home because they don't have access.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with that. It's just the abuse that concerns me, and I don't know how you control that.
Right.
That's why I thought the nurse was a nice option.
So a lot of students don't feel comfortable going to the nurse. They'd rather just go to the bathroom and have it accessible
Right.
in the bathroom, which, again, certainly understand and just give them the opportunity to see how it goes. And if it goes well, then we can continue it. If it doesn't go well, then we'll work to make modifications to it.
And certainly, continue on, great.
Okay.
I was just trying to comment on the motion, the resolution.
I kind of struggle with it, right? Because I'm fully supportive of what y'all are doing here, right? And if the students are, kind of working it, I'm even more in support of it there. Again, it seems like everything the MSC is looking to address are items that are maybe a little bit outside some of the missions, right? I mean, but
I think some of them are, yes.
I don't know what I guess I don't know what the, I guess this resolution is trying to help districts that aren't being proactive on the topic like y'all are, right?
Well, you just said, though, that we weren't being proactive about it, that it was our students being proactive about it, right?
So students, I honestly don't know if it was thought of being an issue, but I think that we're being proactive now in responding to them and showing that we're listening and we're going to do everything we can to support them in the endeavor. I mean, it was actually, the principal did offer to find a way to make it happen within the school confines, and the young lady said, no, we want to take care of this ourselves. All we need is your support. So I think the girls are proactive. I do agree. I mean, I do think that some of this, at a certain point in time, the MASC is making recommendations, all of which, and I hate to keep going back to it, but they all have a cost associated with it. And, there are districts, thankfully we're not one of them, that don't have copy machines up and running right now because they can't afford to have them up and running.
poverty and social emotional issues and family home life. I do agree that menstrual products are something that it's a necessity, it's a biological need that some kids just don't have access to.
I'm sure if you don't have access to it, it's difficult to attend school.
Yeah.
And we're not sitting here debating, I'm sorry, Randy.
Right, yeah. I would just think, but the schools provide for a lot of the other needs of the children. And so I go back and forth about whether this should be included in those needs. If we're providing other things, is this something that should be provided as well? Or is this just, again, looking at the cost, something else that doesn't need to be mandated? I go back and forth. I'm not decided yet.
Can I make a comment on it?
Oh, sorry. I know her.
I think this is coming up because New Hampshire passed a state law that requires all products to be covered
Don't
by the
forget to tell
schools.
us your name, too.
Oh, Lisa Martin Pepperell. Sorry. Sorry, but I think that's why this is on your resolutions, is because New Hampshire passed a state law in July of this year.
For schools to
For schools to cover, the whole state has to cover the products.
Is there any funding tied to that? Or
All
just-
funded.
So it's funded by the state?
I don't know if it's all funded by the state, but they passed a law that it has to be funded by the schools.
Yeah, I think that's our,
What was that?
that's the concern there, right? Is that it's another line item.
Well, I think the resolution is that MASC will work to provide additional funding for this purpose. It doesn't say they're going to provide menstrual products and then work on funding, that they're going to simply seek funding for this purpose.
Yeah, again, it says, therefore be it resolved, MASC work with state and federal legislatures to provide additional funding to provide free access to menstrual products from the school nurse and in restrooms and in locker rooms. So it's saying that MASC is pushing the state and the federal government to fund these products. They're a necessity for our students to attend school.
I agree. Any other comments?
I don't think we had a motion on this one yet. So I'll move to approve Resolution 8.
Second.
Okay, any other comments? Last chance. All those in favor?
I'm just going to say, I don't think that, it is a necessity. I don't think it's any different than Band-Aids or an ice pack if somebody needs to go to the nurse. And it is, again, just pushing for that funding to help support that. But even without the funding, I don't think it's going to cost our district hundreds of thousands of dollars or something. It's just a necessity for some students sometimes. It's not something major. It's just the funding.
And it's definitely been shown that there are places where when children don't have access to these materials, that they miss school. So, and I have to imagine that the cost of that is greater to the district than the cost of somebody taking an extra few products home with them.
I was just going to say, I think in this particular case, I would rather just the district work to address it, but not have MASC tell us how we're going to address it.
But again,
If that makes sense.
it's that MASC works with state and federal legislatures to provide additional funding, not that the local community needs to provide that funding. So that's not, the resolution is that MASC is going to push the state to provide funding for these products.
Yeah, it's not
For
the
all
mandate
schools.
that we provide products.
Yeah, so the whole thing with, what's the cost to the district, it's what's the cost to the state? What's the cost to the federal government?
But it's also the time that, again, it comes back to what's the priorities for the MASC, right?
Well, it's a priority for students to be in school, right?
Right, but
And if our students are missing school because they're on their periods and they don't have a product, there are kids probably in this district who have missed school because of that. Again, we're a school committee and we're pushing, the MASC is for school committees, it's for schools. If we are pushing this is educationally based. This is, I don't know. I'm sorry, I interrupted. I apologize.
Again, my whole comment comes back to, again, having been out of this seat for a year, I'm surprised that this topic is of the top 9 things that the MSC is working on.
Right.
That's my thought.
All right, any other comments? Okay, so the motion is to support this? All those in favor? Please
Aye.
say aye. Okay. Any opposed?
I'll say no.
No?
It
Any
would be
abstentions?
nice if we were able to give MSC
Okay.
feedback on priorities.
So it passes 7-1.
Do you know, you vote all these, but if you could send the list back to them, this is 1 through 9, or this is the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third.
Or to rank them priority?
Yeah, to rank them so that we can give them feedback on what's most important to us. Because I think that's been one of our stumbling blocks here is what's important, what isn't, and what, you can only spend so much money and energy, what do you spend it on? Well, we're not giving them any priorities.
We could do a heck of a lot if they would just achieve number 3, right?
Which one is,
Yes.
school
Absolutely.
transportation.
Transportation, right? I mean,
Right.
we wouldn't have to worry about the rest of this stuff.
All right,
Do I read the last one, or you want to do the last
you
one?
can do the last one.
Charter school reform. Therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees seek legislative action to both address the deleterious effects of charter school funding on certain municipalities and school districts across the state and approve a comprehensive set of reforms that includes: 1. Establishment of strict guidelines or regulations to require that charter schools enroll representative cross-sections of students residing within the school service areas. 2. Reporting of accurate numbers of students who leave charter schools who return to the sending districts or district of residence. 3. Requiring the MA or the Massachusetts Department of Education and Secondary Education to retain and report accurate data on enrollment of students with learning disabilities, physical disabilities, economic disadvantage, emotional disability, and status as racial and linguistic minorities. 4. State requirements that all charter schools be funded in full by the Commonwealth rather than by expropriation of Chapter 70 education aid from the sending cities, towns, and regions. And 5, state funding in full for any mitigation funds created to offset the loss of state funding for students who become students in charter schools. Rationale. This resolution addresses several areas where charter school critics note that school districts are disadvantaged by current policy. Among these issues are failure to recruit and retain a fair proportion of students at risk, English language learners, or clients of special education services. The resolution also recommends that charter schools should be funded as a discrete budget line item rather than by having sending district Chapter 70 funding diverted to charter schools, and that the current mitigation program to offset temporary losses of district funds be fully funded. Critics of this resolution may argue that the money follows the child and that charter schools represent choices for parents and students. They might also cite efforts by some charter schools to recruit students at risk.
I move that we vote in support of Resolution 9.
I'll second.
Randy? Any discussion?
I'm in support of that.
You are in support?
Mhm.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. One thing I just realized, and if people feel we need to put this on the next agenda, there's a proposal to a bylaw amendment at the bottom of the last page. And they are simply changing, there's one line and one word. If you look at the last paragraph, they're changing to add in a past president shall serve as non-voting chair of the committee, and they changed the number 4 to the number 5. So if folks are agreeable, we can take that, or we can table that for the next month.
I don't think there's anything of significance
Well, it seems
that
pretty
would cause
someone to come forth and say, I would have spoken about this because I was strongly for it, or, you know what I mean, or
I
against
just
it.
read, as we were reading number 9, I just like, oh, what's that? So
Right.
it's within our 48-hour grace period.
So I move to direct the delegate to approve the proposal to amend the bylaws to change it to 5 rather than 4.
Got a second?
So I'll second.
Any other comments? All those in favor of supporting the bylaw amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. That's also unanimous. In terms of our next meeting, which again has been moved to October 28th, actually, before I get there, Rob, did you have anything from the building committee that you wanted to update folks on? Not to put you on the spot, but we skipped over your subcommittee report, so we'll
Yeah,
give you the chance.
just trying to schedule that last meeting to get all the numbers kind of finalized and hopefully end our job there.
So like after the last meeting?
I'm hopeful, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Good. In terms of our next meeting on the 28th, anything folks would like on the agenda that they know about right now?
I'd like to just kind of nail down who's going to the MASC, just to make sure there aren't any changes.
Yep.
If people can think about their schedules and if they want to attend, they're looking to attend full, couple of days. There's a Friday, Saturday rate, or
Anything else from anybody? Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
That hesitation, folks want to stay here? All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.